So in this video we are going to start to draw some of our different viewpoints of our lemons. So you should have your visual of the different photographs of the lemon, and we're going to match them up in a minute to our different backgrounds we made last time. We will need a pencil to draw the basic outlines and a set of oil pastels. So in our first square we are going to concentrate on this view of the lemon, and in our more radial overhead view, which is number 2, we are going to look at this view. So we can fold our pages in half and half again, so we're only looking at the drawing we need to complete our observational drawing. The first thing we need to do is match up the horizon line. My horizon line on my first background is here where I'm pointing with the pencil, and you can see in the photograph it is down here. So just to remind you, the horizon line is your viewer's line, and it is looking as far as you can see in the distance, and that's what that imaginary line appears, because you can't see past that. Okay, so let's start with our basic oval shape to begin with. We need to match it up. So if you look, our lemon sits probably halfway in this purple section and halfway in this blue section. And when you are drawing, draw quite lightly in case we need to make any changes. I prefer to curve my page if I am making a curve shape. Just get that basic shape in. And then we've got a bit of a point coming out here. So the shading, if you see this point here, we're just going to add in where the diffused darker parts will be. And again, on our actual lemon, this part is slightly darker. And I'm just going to put some lines in to help us when we do our shading. So here we've got dark part in our lemon, and here. And our highlight is this area here. So as it comes from here, just start to draw that shape which we need to complete in white, and then we can start our shading. So although the main colour of our lemon is yellow, because of our different highlights, shadows, and where the light hits at different parts, we are going to obviously have our yellow pastel to create our lemon, but we've also got different shades and tones of lemon for the shadow. So I've got a slightly darker mustard yellow, some browns, oranges, peach, and white is very important. And for the shadow, some lovely dark blue and purple. So let's get started. And it's important to have your picture right next to it so we can always refer back to it. I'm going to start off using some of the darker shadow bit, so I'm going to focus on this area here. At the side of my oil pastel, just starting a bit of an outline, and I'm going to even use one shade up, looking back at my picture, the really dark part here and here. And remember, it's important to do your shading in the direction of the shape. So on this bottom bit, I'm just adding in anything really dark that I can see. Then I can go back to my lighter brown just to It's important to spend quite a lot of time on this because we're going to transform our 2D flat oval shape into a 3D lemon, and that's all achieved by the shading. So my eyes are going back and forwards to the picture just to start to mark out all of these slightly darker areas. Okay, now I think it's time to start using slightly mustard colour. And then we can start to introduce that bright yellow around our highlight area. That tan, this bit's still quite dark. Some curved lines in of the direction of the fruit. And blending them with the brown. you can use the lighter colours to go over some of the areas to help also with the blending. So now it's time to use the white for a highlight. So I'm using the circular motions to help blend the white section. Comes down here, and you've also got a little bit of highlight there. Coming down this little bit, like so. And now it's time to look at this shadow. So let's use our purple. And where we've got these two lines flicking out, just going to emphasise our shadow. So I'm going right the way up to the fruit, and then I'm going to put lines coming out, flicking out. Remember, our shadow doesn't stop, so we need to get as close as we can to this line. And we can add a little bit of darker blue around the really dark area. Which is there. And then go back over in purple just to blend that a little bit. Lots of lines. I'll just put little circle parts either side of that shadow just to diffuse it a little bit. The last step to apply to our lemon, if you look at the image, you'll see the texture of the skin, and it's kind of built up lots of little circles, like so. So using a brown pencil, we are just going to mark some of that texture onto our oil pastel study here. And I'm not going to push too hard, because when the pencil breaks the surface, it should move some of the oil pastel out the way, and then you're left with all these lovely little circles. We are going to look at just creating it in this dark patch here. So if I zoom in a little bit, you can see as I'm breaking the surface, the texture starts to appear. I'm just going to spend some time looking at my image and creating lots and lots of texture for the skin. And then when you go into this lighter area, push even softer with your pencil. And just look how close the circles are together. And then zoom out a little bit. And you can see how realistic the lemon starts to look. I'd leave this top bit, as I just work in this area here. And then that's our first study complete. Our second study of the lemon is an overhead view, and then the lemon has been cut in half, and we are going to draw this view here. So it is entirely different to what we have been looking at. And it's not a perfect circle. It does need to take up quite a lot of space within our mini background, and push as light as you can. Okay. And you can just see my outline. That is how big it needs to be in comparison to the background. So that's the outer skin of the lemon. We need to add in this inner part. So now I'm just adding in and because it's a natural shape, it's not going to be perfectly circular. Okay, so we've got in the centre, and let's count how many segments we've got. Start here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 9 segments, and they are all uneven from this middle part. If you don't go up to that line, you're just putting them triangles roughly in, but they are quite close together. Some of them are slightly squashed, some of them are slightly wider. Please make them all a little bit different, and it's then going to improve our representation of our drawing. So let's look at this main outer area. We're going to use the mustard yellow, the normal yellow, to create this part. And what I want us to do is create a series of lines. So instead of colouring it or shading it in a circle, we are going to shade it lots of lines like this, and then we are going to add some yellow lines, slightly lighter, and we're just going to concentrate and rotate your oil pastel if your pastel becomes a little bit blunt. So once we've spent some time going all the way around, you can then add your yellow into the gaps just to help blend the slightly lighter areas around the skin. And now we are going to add our white. Okay, so we need to find the sharpest point of the white, and it doesn't matter if we overlap these parts, but we need to just put our white layer all the way around, and you might not really see it in comparison, but it's going to show up when we do the blending all the way around it. We've got this white, some solid white lines, just going in to break up each of our segments. Again, keep on rotating so the point is sharper and narrower. That's all of the segment parts. Outline. Now we need to work on each of them parts. So looking back here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 are a lot darker than these 4. So in my sketch, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 6 because some of mine are a little bit wider. So from this point to this point, it's going to be a lot darker compared to these bottom ones. So I'm going to start with the darker ones first. I've got the brown, the tan, and a bit of yellow. I'm just going to very softly put a little bit of an outline to the segment. I'm doing that inside that white border part. And then I'm going to go over it with the tan. We're going to then really concentrate on what we can see within the segments. I'm doing lots and lots of just oval shapes, and there's a bit of a triangle there, what's quite dark. It's quite abstract. And then we can move on to the next segment. So again, this is another darker area. And as we're shading, I'm kind of scribbling and not going to blend it as much as in number 1 because it's quite watery, it's quite textured, the skin. We just need to show that within our shading. Okay, and remember we can go back to these segments if we need to add some extra detail at the end. It's important to leave that white gap between each one as well. It's always similar to a leaf, it's quite veiny, and that's what we need to show. And then again, if you want the thinner lines, just rotate to get the sharper point. Okay, let's move on to the light areas. So we're only going to be using our tan, our yellow and our white. Our tan acts as the dark in these examples. Again, I'm still following that same technique where I'm highlighting the dark parts within the segment. can just add some of these white highlighted areas which I've left on purpose. But don't blend too much because we still want to see that lovely texture we've all created within each segment. So I'm just putting lots and lots of little lines everywhere. And just really going over that central area. So now, using my brown pencil, I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure on the outside part and give it a bit of a diffuse outline. I'm not pushing hard at all. I'm just pushing a little bit harder on the areas which are like the tanned areas which are dark. And then we're going to just have a bit of pencil work inside, just to define the segments. I'm just kind of again putting a little bit of a bolder outline. I'm going to leave the lighter areas. So the last thing I've added, using slightly lighter blue, is a little shadow underneath where we can see it here. So look how thin that shadow is, okay? So it's not an outline, it's just a tiny shadow. Look at where it starts, look at where it finishes. And there we've got our two different views complete. And next time we're going to work on the bottom two.